Welcome back to Pause to Unedit Yourself, a podcast where reflection meets transformation, where we explore the art of becoming one intentional pause at a time. I'm your host, Anushka, and each episode offers you a chance to press pause and explore bite sized insights and soulful reflections from my own journey of introspection in the hope it will help you too on your path of personal evolution. Whether you're feeling stuck, seeking clarity, or simply wanting to expand, my hope is that this becomes a space of inspiration and deep remembering, guiding you to evolve from within and uncover the infinite potential that lives inside each and every one of you. Your time is super valuable. It's the most precious commodity. So thank you so much for being here and sharing this space with me. Thank you for pressing pause and choosing to journey inward and daring to become the highest expression of yourself. Today, I wanted to explore a topic which has taken me a while to articulate. And it's a word that we've heard many times in our lives, and I mentioned it on this podcast many times. And it's a word that you have felt as well, and that's intuition. But can you actually define it? Like, what is intuition? And that is something I have really been exploring deeply. And especially now, as so many of you that I've been speaking with are stepping into your own journeys, I felt it was time to kind of try and articulate it in the best way that I've come to understand it. So, in episode 21 and 22, we began to explore the ego. And so it now feels kind of natural to explore the counterpart, which is intuition. And it is harder to articulate because it's not something that's loud. It's not something that's logical. It's really something that's more felt than explained. So let's start by exploring what intuition isn't. I think that's probably a good starting point. So, intuition, it's not guessing. It's definitely not that fear in disguise. You see, it's easy to kind of mistake our doubts, our worries, and fears for intuition. That's all mental noise. That's actually a sense of contraction. And if you recall, that's really the ego trying to protect itself. You see, intuition, it's not an emotion and it's not a wishful thinking. It's not a preference. It is something so much deeper. It is the voice of your true self before thought appears. So, what is intuition? So, Carl Jung defined it quite beautifully. And he said, quote, intuition is perception via the unconscious that brings forth ideas, images, new possibilities, and ways out of blocked situations. Unquote. You see, intuition is a deep knowing, a deep, deep knowing that you have without any proof. It's that sense of knowing that you must move forward in a certain way before that path is fully visible because you deeply know that's the right thing. It's that certainty beyond logic. It's that sense of you just know, and then that doubt kind of creeps up, and that's your ego trying to protect itself, deep down, you know that you have that sense of knowing. And sometimes, it surprises people because intuition, it can make you feel uncomfortable. Why? Because it doesn't negotiate with your comfort zone. What I've come to realize is it's not the noise that the ego creates, but it's actually the language of your soul. So, what does true intuition feel like? Because it is a feeling. It feels clear, it feels calm, it feels direct, and it feels deeply aligned. In essence, your intuition is your soul remembering what your mind has forgotten. Intuition doesn't have any predecessors, there's nothing that comes before it. It's just a true connection to original thought. There's no movement before and there's no movement after it. It's just this moment which really truly comes alive, and it's something you just cannot explain. In essence, it's your inner compass. Your intuition is your inner tutor. It's your teacher guiding you on this journey called life. But how do we listen to it? Because everyday chaos of our life, it stimulates all of our senses. We get so overstimulated, and eventually we disconnect with our internal compass. And so we lose that compass. And as we grow, that inner compass, it slowly gets replaced by all of this outer noise, by this approval, right? This sense of validation that we seek, that place of fear that we live in our minds, that sense of expectation, cultural expectations, the roles that we take on, and then, how our ego develops. All of this starts to put layers and layers and layers onto our truth, into our guiding compass, which is aching. It's there, and it's like it's that little voice, and it keeps telling you, like, I'm here, I'm here. I'm trying to guide you. You're asking for guidance, and I'm trying to guide you. But you just need to quieten down the noise to listen. And so, because of all of these noise, we start to trade our inner truth, because we start wanting that outer belonging. And in essence, then what happens is we begin to confuse intuition with our desire, with our anxiety, or with parts of impulse. And we think, oh, that's intuition, that's intuition. No, it's not. And slowly, as we go through this process, we start to forget ourselves, even though those whispers are there. It never leaves us. And so, as you do the inner work, as you quieten the noise down, as you start to sit with all of that discomfort, and you start to peel back the ego's layers of all of that societal programming that has molded and defined you, you start to recognize the thoughts, the labels, the concepts, the fears, the expectations, all of those stories that you have told yourself. And it's just the ego trying to keep you safe in that comfort zone, so that you stay confined to that box. You see, it's all a protection mechanism, because the ego wants you safe. But intuition, on the other hand, intuition wants you aligned. So How can you tell the difference between ego and intuition? And this is a question that everyone eventually asks. I hope to articulate this in a way that kind of simplifies it. So think of intuition as that subtle inner knowing or that gut feeling that feels calm, it feels clear, it feels effortless. And it tends to guide you towards what feels right, even if it lacks that logical reasoning. On the flip side, ego, it's that mental aspect which feels loud, which feels urgent. It's more defensive and it's more focused on fear and control and external validation. And it often involves sort of overthinking and it brings in this aspect of self doubt or the need to protect one's image. And ego driven messages are anxious and they're repetitive. And they often replay past experiences and they also anticipate judgment or societal expectations. So one feels tense and reactive, and the other feels peaceful, even if it asks for courage. So maybe the question isn't so much as what is my intuition saying, but checking in to see what is the energy behind the message. So, how do you tune into this energy to feel the difference? So, let's explore fear and courage. So, ego driven messages are rooted in fear. The underlying belief is that the world is dangerous and we are all unsafe. So, the goal of these messages is to increase our control over situations. But true intuition, on the other hand, it comes from the heart and it carries the belief that we are whole and safe. And instead of trying to control everything, the intention here is to express who we truly are. Another thing to feel the difference is looking out from outside in and inside out. So the ego, it focuses from the outside in. It focuses on give me money, success, status, and then I will be happy. You know, the ego relies on these external outcomes to feel good, and it drives us constantly to do more in hopes of finding this happiness. Whereas the intuition, it comes from inside out. It shows us that happiness is inside of ourselves, not outside. And it guides us inwards to do that inner work and then express those qualities outwardly. Another big one is scarcity and abundance. And this is one that I've really had to lean in on and work through a lot, actually. It's been a very big eye opener for me, this one. The ego ultimately lives in a world of scarcity, and you can look around and you can see it everywhere. It comes from this place of that there's not enough. And if we have something, then that means somebody else needs to lose something. And the ego will tell us that we need to live in this world of competition where there are winners and losers, there's rich and poor, there's successful and failed individuals. That's how it's going to look at it. But the intuition, it's our deeper essence, and it only knows abundance. And intuition is driven by knowing that there are opportunities for everyone. And you know, by succeeding, others also benefit. It drives us to express the best of who we are, and that there are countless paths, and each path is different and unique to everyone. And your success does not threaten somebody else's. Ego divides, and intuition, it connects. Another way to feel the difference is mind and heart. See, the ego's voice, it's constantly stuck in the mind and it justifies everything through logic. It engages us in this inner debate to prove what is right and what is wrong. You'll have this chatter in your head. But the intuition, it's centered in the heart and it's guiding us towards happiness and fulfillment. It doesn't really rely on intellectual justification. It just presents herself as that truth. And if you try and debate with it, it will keep giving you that same answer again and again and again. So let me try and frame it and give you some examples. So, for example, intuition will guide us. You will feel guided to do something, to express yourself, to write a song, from the heart, for example, without expecting anything in return. So many people have asked me, oh, are you monetizing this podcast? Are you doing this to the podcast? How are you going to make money? I said, that's not my objective here. My intuition guided me that I needed to create this podcast because there are people who are on their journeys and it's something for people to learn from. That's what my intuition has guided me for. And it warms my heart that there are so many people all around the world that are tuning in. That's the reason why I'm doing this. I'm not expecting anything in return. But the ego, on the other hand, it wants to write a song to make it into a global hit. It will want to do a podcast with the intention of getting X amount of views and then getting brand deals and then monetizing it. That's the intention. For example, my podcast, people have said, "Oh, why don't you do clips and put it on social media and all of those marketing gimmicks?" My background is in marketing. And it's only me creating this. And I've just felt that's not the energy that I want to be putting into it. I just want to be able to distribute it on as many platforms as possible, create a community, and my intention is that it goes to those who need to receive the messages of this podcast, wherever it is, whoever it is around the world. You see, intuition leads us to have a conversation with someone simply to enjoy the moment together. The ego, however, it seeks a meeting because it avoids being alone. Intuition encourages us to start a business to help others. It's about using our gifts that we all have, our unique gifts, because you want to help and you want to use your gifts to be of service. Whereas the ego, it wants to create a business just to become wealthy. Intuition guides us towards forgiveness. And ego, it pushes us towards revenge. See, the action you think might look identical, but the ultimate thing behind it all is the intention. The intention changes absolutely everything. It shapes the outcome. And by following the path of intuition, you invite the flow of love, of inner peace, and abundance into your life. But by following the ego, you invite in more fears, which will lead to a greater need for control over events. Both are endless paths, but it's really up to you to choose. So, which voice do you listen to? It's up to you to make that choice. If you align your consciousness with all of those fear-based thoughts, that believing that the world is dangerous and then you'd have this need to control it to feel safe. In this case, you are really guided by the voice of the ego. And you will approach life with that focus is going to be on that external world than on your inner self. Your attention in life will be on ensuring safety by taking control of the external world. And it will always stay outward, and your nervous system will always be on guard. However, if you align with love, if you align with feeling completely safe, with an essence that can never be taken from you, that you are following the voice of your intuition, then what happens is that inner world, it ends up taking priority over the external world. And the main goal becomes expressing your deeper selves. So if you're still with me here, the question will be now, you'll be asking yourself as well, this is fantastic. I want to reconnect with my inner voice. How do I do that? How do I hear it again? Well, it's simple. It's really simple. You slow down. You press pause. You create space, because intuition whispers. And when life overstimulates your senses, when you're constantly consuming, when you're constantly reacting, when you're constantly rushing, you lose that signal, that radio station. It gets too much static. So to retune that tuning fork, you need to rest. And that's what restores it. You need to, stillness, it strengthens it. And everyone has intuition. It's not a rare artifact. Intuition, it's a natural ability that every single one of us possess. And everyone experiences it differently. So, for example, some of us can experience it as a deep knowing. It's that inner voice or that sudden knowledge. It's also known as claircognizance. Or it could be a vision, which is kind of showing us symbols or some types of synchronicities or dreams. And that's called clairvoyance. It could be this gut feeling. It could be a sudden sense of clarity that you get. You could experience synchronicities or sort of like these emotional nudges. And the more that you listen to that first whisper before overthinking it, it will start to become stronger. So here are some practical ways for you to strengthen your intuition. Start noticing symbols, colors, repeating patterns in your environment. Trust your first impressions before that logic intervenes. Trust that first thought. Start paying attention to that immediate impression before overthinking it. Keep a synchronicity journal. Meditate or practice breath work to quieten the mind down. And pay attention to your nervous system. Tune into it when it's expansive or when it's contractive. And that tells you a lot. Intuition, it grows with self-awareness, with patience, with self-trust, and ultimately with self-love. So I'll leave you with this. When was the last time you ignored your intuition? And when was the last time you followed it, even when it didn't make sense and it led you somewhere unexpectedly? You see, intuition, it's not something you acquire, it's something you remember. And the more you honor it, the clearer it becomes. Because beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the fear, your inner compass has never stopped guiding you home. As always, I use these episodes as reminders for myself, like mini guides that you can refer to whenever you need a check-in with yourself for a moment of recalibration. So do feel free to save them and share them with someone who might need to hear them. And please do share your comments and feedback too. It really helps me to know what resonates for you and what you would like to hear more of. If you want to connect in between the pauses, I do post on my Instagram at Press Pause Movement. There's also a newsletter, Pause Perspective, you can subscribe to. The link is below. And I've also created a curated playlist on Spotify for all your press pause moments. Everything is on the link in the description below. See you in the next episode.